The Bench by the Ocean Part 3. The letter that was never meant to be read. The sun had barely risen over Nazare, casting long golden shadows across the quiet streets. Seagulls cried softly in the distance, and the waves rolled in like the steady breath of the sea. Eleanor arrived at the bench as she always did, coffee in one hand, sketchbook in the other. But this morning, someone was already sitting there. A man. In his 30s, maybe. Foreign. Quiet. His posture was heavy, like someone carrying something too long. She hesitated, unsure whether to turn away or say hello. He noticed her and slid over without speaking. "You can sit," he said, with a tired smile. Matteo said this bench belonged to everyone. Eleanor froze. "You knew Matteo?" The man nodded slowly. "I'm Tomas' son." The stranger introduced himself as Daniel, the son Tomas had never known about, raised in Canada by his mother. He had only recently discovered his father's name. And the bench. And he brought something with him, a letter. A sealed envelope. A bit worn. On the front, "To Tomas someday. I found it in a journal." "It was never sent," Daniel explained. "But it's in Matteo's handwriting." Eleanor took the envelope gently. Her hands trembled. "I think he meant for someone to read it eventually," Daniel said. "Maybe not me. Maybe you." That evening, Eleanor walked along the shore, the unopened letter in her pocket. She sat on the sand, just where the waves whispered against her toes, and finally opened it. "My son, I wasn't the father you needed. Or maybe I was, but too late. You left, angry. I stayed, stubborn. But the sea doesn't hold grudges. It just keeps coming back. So I came to the bench. Every day. Hoping you might come back too. I don't need you to forgive me. I just hope you find peace. And if one day you have a child, tell them the truth. That sometimes love stays quiet. But it stays." Matteo. Tears welled up in Eleanor's eyes. She wasn't family. But somehow this felt like it was written for her too. 2 days later, Ines came running to the cafe where Eleanor was sketching. "Eleanor, someone's asking for you." An older woman. "She says she's from Lisbon." The woman was elegant, with silver-streaked hair and sharp eyes. Her name was Clara. She was Tomas' sister. And she had come not to find peace but answers. "Why does everyone speak of this bench?" she asked sharply. "Why did my brother never return home?" Eleanor calmly shared what she knew, the story of Matteo and Tomas, the storm, the years of silence, the notes and the bench. Clara listened with clenched fists, then whispered, "He should have written to us. He should have told us he was sorry." Eleanor placed the letter from Matteo in her hands. Clara broke down, quietly. And for the first time in decades, Tomas' story began to mend. Eleanor had lived in Nazare for nearly 2 years now. And while the original bench still sat on the cliff, weathered, strong, steady, something new had been built beside the library. A second bench. Smaller. Newer. But this one had no plaque. It was meant for the living. For conversation. For stories. For strangers. Eleanor called it the Now Bench. Tourists came and went. But a few people, locals, fishermen, artists, began to gather there more often. It wasn't just a place to sit. It was a place to begin. One morning, Eleanor received a letter of her own. It was from a small gallery in Porto. They had seen her sketches through a traveler's social media post, someone who had visited the bench and shared the art pinned to the little seaside library. They wanted to host a solo exhibition drawn by the sea, the silent stories of Nazare. Eleanor was stunned. "I'm not a real artist," she told Ines. Ines laughed. "You're the most real artist I know. Go show the world what silence looks like." Porto was loud, colorful, full of motion, the opposite of Nazare. Eleanor walked the streets wide-eyed, her sketchbook under her arm. The gallery was small but beautiful. Her works, the waves, the benches, Mateo's hands, Daniel's silhouette, Clara holding the letter, children drawing on the second bench filled the walls. People cried. People smiled. People listened. During the Q&A, someone asked, "Why do you only draw places? Not faces?" Eleanor replied, "Because places never forget. They carry our footsteps long after we're gone." Eleanor returned to Nazare quietly, late in the evening. She climbed the hill and sat on the old bench. Daniel was there too. He held a candle. "It would have been Tomas' birthday," he said. They sat together in silence. Then Daniel whispered, "I used to wish I had memories of him. But now I realize I have this place. This bench. These stories. That's more than I ever dreamed of." Eleanor nodded. Sometimes the ocean gives back in other ways. That night, Eleanor looked in the mirror. She no longer saw the tired designer from Boston. She saw a storyteller, a keeper, a witness. She had come to Nazare looking for rest. Instead, she had become a part of the place's story. Not as a visitor, but as its voice. Years passed. People still came to the bench. Sometimes they left letters. Sometimes drawings. Sometimes nothing but footprints. Eleanor never left Nazare again. She ran the small library, gave quiet sketch classes to children, and greeted strangers with warm eyes and an extra cup of tea. She became, without ever planning it, the person of the bench. And even long after her own hair turned silver and her hands shook while sketching, Eleanor stayed. Because some people don't travel the world to change it. They stay in one place to let it change them. Stories don't end where the book closes. They echo in benches, in waves, in people brave enough to stay.